Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Would everybody please stand so we can say I pledge allegiance. All right? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us. Steve Bobowski here. Barb.
Here.
Aaron.
Here.
James.
Here.
We have missing Rob and Tim. Is that correct? Yes. All right. And we have enough to have a quorum, so we're good to go. That said, citizens that are here with us today, since there's no one here, I guess there are no comments. Let's go to our next item. Approve the minutes from our June 27th meeting. Do I have a motion to accept and approve?
I'll make a motion to accept.
All right, we've got, and do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, opposed, so it's, we're good to go, John. All right, our business, Mr. Mayor, come on, we got your spot right here.
I'm not sitting in the middle. I'm sitting down here.
Wherever you want to sit.
We're just looking for technical advice.
Don't,
Yeah.
don't you have to have socks on to attend this meeting?
I'm out.
To attend this meeting?
I'm out.
How you doing? All right, so let's go to item number 4. We're just moving ahead, Mr. Mayor. All right, our business appreciation dinner, speaker search. Is there any speaker search? Is there any action on our speaker search at the moment? Yes.
I have a suggestion from Alderman Holfer that you get Peter Fagan to talk about changing cultures to a culture of can-do. Changing cultures to a culture of can-do. He had another suggestion, but I forgot what it was.
Okay.
What can I say?
Yes.
But didn't the chamber have Fagan complete? No, that
Yes,
was,
we did. Yes, the chamber had Peter Fagan. Fiserv Forum was still beginning stages at that
That was
time. He was an excellent speaker,
At least 5 years ago.
at least, yeah, I think.
Yeah, well, it's been, yeah.
At
It's
least.
been, well, since I've been with the chambers, at least 5. Yeah. So,
I think so.
but that was during your.
Yes,
time.
yes.
Yeah,
And he
I've
did
seen
it
him on
fine.
TV. He looks like a good speaker. So, besides him, any others? So I'll put.
No, he's good.
Hey, I think he's a known entity in the greater Milwaukee area. So, any others that we can think of that might also say yes?
We can look for more suggestions too.
Yeah.
What kind of criteria are we talking about for a speaker selection? Like topic?
And one of the things we've looked at in the past is people who could, be a draw of a nature.
Yep.
Then, do they also have a topic that would be consistent with, our mission, which is economic development, but also Franklin. So it could be a little bit broader in that. In this case, Peter Fagan talking about, the sports and those kinds of things. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting for everybody. So, to that standpoint, I think that would be a nice draw.
Ed suggested, because, I'm sorry, Barb.
Oh, no, I didn't. I have nothing to say.
He did I'm sorry, Barb.
Oh, no, I didn't. I have nothing to say.
He did a speech for New Berlin on the culture of change because when he took over the Bucks, they were not winners. They didn't have a winner attitude. And he changed attitude. And he changed that culture. So that was Ed's suggestion.
Okay.
Otherwise, Tracy Johnson from CarW, she's a pretty good speaker too, and I know her pretty well.
She'd love to come down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can
She'd love to come down here.
yeah.
Okay.
So I can can call her
I
tomorrow
wondered
and
if she'd
ask
be
her.
a draw though, Aaron.
I don't know.
She could do one on the status of business now and for the status of business now and forward-looking outlook.
Okay. I think we ought to contact her, yeah.
Okay.
Would be the answer. I mean,
Okay.
the likelihood of getting Peter on that particular day and that kind of stuff probably is, 10, 20%. Particular day and that kind of stuff probably is, 10, 20% at best. So we need more than one.
Okay.
It's important to make sure that you invite first one person and then get a denial or a negative, so that you don't have to say, oh, sorry, we got somebody else.
Right.
If someone else has agreed. So go one at a time. So I think start let him say yes or no.
Okay, that's one way of doing it.
Well, it's the less embarrassing way to do it.
Well, but you could certainly put in, would you be interested? And do you have availability? We're working out a schedule. So, I mean, putting schedules together for people that are busy is kind of hard in general.
True, but I would still suggest we start with Peter and let him say no.
Well, I don't mind giving him a call.
Oh, okay.
So,
I can call,
okay,
you call him and then if he declines, then I'll call Tracy.
got it. Okay. So those are two, but I would also suggest that for the sake of the group, we might come up with a few others. As drives homes and, late at night.
All of them.
Yes.
I mean, I'm serious,
serious.
because this is just before the election, so yes, I'd say all of them we want to stay away from.
I was about to take that personally, but I won't.
Yeah, well, don't take it personally, but, we're not a
Let's
partisan
suspend
group
the
here.
rules so that the mayor can speak whenever he wants.
I gotcha. Well, I guess,
Well, their CEO, their Saputo USA president she's a she, young, but I thought she was a pretty good speaker.
Yeah, but the gentleman that's on site here too was good and cordial. The gentleman that's on site here too was good and cordial.
Yeah, I think Lynn would be a better choice.
Oh.
I can give her a call. Lynn, her name is Lynn, LynnE, Castongay, Castone, Castongay, Castongauy.
And her background could give us some insights as to why they picked Franklin and their process, and help us arrive at a better understanding of how a company selects, and help us arrive at a better understanding of how a company selects us, as well as sharing that with the whole.
I'd be happy to call her at the appropriate time.
okay. Athletes, what do we think about them as a category?
I'm not available.
Yeah. What do we think about them as a category?
I'm not available.
Yeah. Well, I guess that was that one out. Other thoughts besides Mike as athletes, and as are any that we'd say, wow, that would be one consistent with our mission. One consistent with our mission.
It was successful with the chamber.
Yeah.
Where they had the
And he was a freshman running back, so he showed up.
fellow from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
It was
What's the purpose of the speech? What's the purpose of the speech?
Franklin.
Steve and I had this argument, so I'll be quiet.
Well, again, I'm throwing it out to the rest of you guys. I mean, if it's a
If somebody told me Junior Bridgman,
yeah,
Okay,
because he's a business person.
right.
yeah,
Somebody told me home runs, right?
Yeah.
'Cause he's an entrepreneur
yeah,
and
and a businessman, and I agree. So, I mean, the freshman running back, not necessarily, nor was his
That didn't trip
speech
my
particularly great, but he drew. So I go back to a guy like Jerry Kramer. Yeah, I think he would draw.
yeah,
Do we pay for,
$5,000 budget, I think.
For the
But that
entire
goes-
event, right?
to,
And what would the stipend to speak usually be?
Oh, Kramer's probably 25 grand.
Exactly.
Nah, at this point, I think he's probably down to 5 to 10.
Still, you want to blow your budget.
Yeah. But you never know until you ask.
for nothing, although we did contribute to one of his favorite charities, a few $100s.
Yeah.
So that was, we've never paid a speaker
Right.
at the chamber.
And that's what I mean, there's plenty of those that will do it for, good of the,
Right.
that kind of stuff. Beat around a little bit as we all think about players and people that could, speak.
I don't want to discount, you've got all of those contacts in the sporting goods. This is just my opinion. You guys do what you want. That's just my opinion.
Well, okay, so we've got, various different, so baseball's over for the most part. So how about college? Coaches and things like that. How about a professor?
Oh, God, get a lecture. Man, just trying to recover.
Well, all I'm saying is if you had a distinguished enough from I'm just saying somebody people go, oh, that makes sense.
Or Dean Hamhouse from the Water Council. He's another person I know that I used to belong to that group back when I was in that space.
Okay, if I was Dave Dull at Alice Roller,
Yeah.
would this person interest me? Because if I was sitting on the fence as to whether I wanted to go to this dinner, and see Olson again,
Right.
would that kick me over the edge or not? That's where my head goes. President of Alice Roller
Yeah.
or Rich Simonson, or, pick a name, right?
Yep. All right. I suggest we table it for the moment, but,
Well,
I would.
Contact Fagan.
Yeah, I'll contact Fagan, but I also am saying here are some potential other ones.
Okay.
Because at the same time, that is a.
It's a pool.
Well, it is, and it's like, okay, who's first, second, third, and contact, and its availability as much as anything else.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily an easy
Yeah,
thing.
and this is just an ongoing discussion. We talked about it last month.
Yeah.
So we talked about it last month.
Yeah.
So we need to continue to talk
But
about
again,
it.
but I appreciate that, John, but we're getting close to August.
Yeah, I think.
August, September, bam. We're
need to make a
we're not. So I will get him a call. I'll give him a shot tomorrow. You don't by chance have him in your Rolodex, do you?
I did.
I did. By chance have him in your Rolodex, do you?
I did.
I did. Yeah, okay.
You did that subtly too.
Okay. So do you think the chamber might still have it?
I have no idea.
Call the Bucks.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm also saying, sometimes they have a private number that you can get through, go through the Bucks, and I'll be still calling a week from now, 2
Do you
weeks,
want-
number that you can get through, go through the Bucks, and I'll be still calling a week from now, 2
Do you
weeks.
want me to check with the chamber?
Sure. Yeah, and I do actually have a guy over at the Bucks who I can call too, so.
Oh, well, that's.
No,
even better.
Wait a
chamber,
minute, no,
well.
Barb just said she's got his number.
I did, but
Oh, okay. Oh,
no.
Got
I'd have, but
oh, okay. Oh,
no.
Got
I'd have, I can search, but I don't think I have.
Oh, it's at the chamber, I'm sorry.
Yeah, at the chamber.
you go chamber and I'll go, I'll call direct. Okay, gotcha.
So one question, did we ever secure the location?
Not yet,
One question, did we ever secure the location?
not yet. And that's in my court.
All right.
If we contact Peter and he gives us a quick no because it's a conflict with something else and he knows he can't make it, are we gonna wait till next meeting to figure out who the next?
Nah, just get a hold of me,
Make it. Are we gonna wait till next meeting to figure out who the next?
Nah, just get a hold of me and I'll go to Tracy.
The next one.
Yep.
Okay,
Next one, okay.
gotcha.
Well, who do you want to be the next one?
That's what I'm
Tracy.
saying, yeah.
I think we decided
threw out
Tracy.
about 5 names, so.
Tracy Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay, then let me know if I need to call Lynn
Lynn.
from Saputo.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Tracy Johnson, what's her,
She's the president of CARW.
Yeah, she's
Commercial Association or
realtor.
oh, that Tracy Johnson, sure.
That card,
Yeah, I gotcha. Gotcha. She took the Dale Carnegie, and her dad worked for me. So
Oh, okay.
that one. Okay.
and she loves us.
Does she? Well, yeah. How could she not? Okay. So we got Tracy as our number 2, and she'll be terrific.
And then you want Lynn from Saputo?
Lynn is number 3.
number 3.
Yeah, Lynn would be great. For Lynn is number 3. Awesome. Invitation decision. What was our issue on that, John?
It's just, again, we just have to make a decision, but we have a list of names on the invitation list. And then, and actually, it's all in that Excel spreadsheet that I sent you. You can
Right.
pull up whatever tab. But I guess if you will continue to look at that, and then we can start looking at, what the awards were, and we're gonna have to make a decision at the latest next meeting
Right.
as to what kind of awards we're gonna have.
Gotcha.
And get that ironed out, and maybe even, get some suggestions on we'll make a list of the suggestions.
Come back to the list. So we had the list from those who attended last year.
Yep.
We've also got the list of all the Franklin businesses, sort of.
You say sort of, what's the exclusion?
Well, and it's only the fact is we've got the names from Hoover's, but it's pretty solid.
Gotcha.
And so to that standpoint, we had phone numbers, names, but I don't believe we had emails, correct?
Yep, got emails.
Yeah, so we need to go another level to get some of those kinds of things, or, because we really don't have better addresses in the,
I think there's a tab in that spreadsheet that says, bank, so
yeah, so we can just take those
we'll
guys
know
out.
that those are on a
Yeah.
date.
Gotcha.
And if you want them, we'll have to make the effort to find out who they are.
I would also suggest Franklin Chamber members, if they would be interested, because they're obviously involved in the community, so that would be a solid one. Involved in the community, so that would be a solid one. And then the other,
Franklin,
yeah, I'm saying Franklin, as opposed.
Franklin, comma, chamber members.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. I got you. Oh, Frank. But let's go another question. Is it all that bad if somebody from? But let's go another question. Is it all that bad if somebody from Oak Creek comes, or somebody outside of Franklin comes to our event? I don't think it's a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but again, I'm advocating. This all started 30 years ago as an appreciation for the investment in the community by these business owners. Franklin Business Appreciation. There's a lot of people from Oak Creek. They better be prospects. Is what I'm thinking.
And that's kind of now. This last time,
I understand.
and
But
so,
this goes back to the same argument that you and I have on the phone all the time. Is this a chamber event or is this Economic Development Commission event? And if it's the second of the first, okay, that's a decision that this commission makes. Special than what the chamber does. So therefore it needs to be different. That's my point of view. It's your decision.
go ahead.
Let me offer another thought. There's people that live in Franklin that are very successful in business, but necessarily don't have proven to be business development along the way. And we've never included any of those names, but they live here, they're part of the community in a lot of ways. And I'm just wondering, because they are successful in other businesses, whether we might not want to include some of that kind of play into us to see where that might go at some point. It might be the same argument that you're saying, but at least they live in Franklin. They have established businesses out in the business world and are part of our community.
So that comes into, does that qualify as potential people coming and actually having their businesses here in Franklin?
Possibly.
Where do you
but-
fish? You fish where the fish are.
One of the other purposes is.
Possibly.
Where do you
but-
fish? You fish where the fish are.
One of the other purposes is, see, always be closing,
They always
always be closing. These are prospects
press
too.
points. Yeah,
So I'm good with it, especially if they live in Franklin.
yeah. That
They
to me
ought to
is,
see what we're doing here.
That was my point. And maybe know a little bit more about us and that we're open to.
Their taxes are paid for part of this anyways.
How do you identify those individuals?
That I don't have a handle on, or else I'd give you the list, but I'm sure they're known.
Well,
I've got-
we would have to do it between us, but, there's,
Yeah.
she's one of the owners
Right.
of Urban's Development. She lives right over here at Wyndham Hills. Yeah, those of us with the voters list can just really quick blast down and see if there's names that we recognize.
Yeah.
There's only 22,000 of them. But, Aaron, you know all kinds of people. Just clicks that, hey, wait a minute, that guy owns a big manufacturing facility in Menai Falls. Well, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Okay, so let's just call that our recruiting effort. Invitees. Okay? Okay? So, again,
I mean, they may not come, they may
yeah.
not respond, but at least we're.
but it's
looking at
consistent
it.
with our mission, and
We're
our
looking
mission
at
here
it-
is to
we're looking
perhaps
at a
bring
different
businesses
pool.
in.
I'd like to expand the pool.
Got it? Okay,
So Kelly put some,
got it. Okay,
so Kelly put something in the newsletter. I thought it diminished the event in terms of the aura of it, the ambiance, putting a piece of paper in the newsletter. It's your intention to putting a piece of paper in the newsletter. It's your intention to print invitations and mail them. Is that the intent?
no, that wasn't, but,
We used to do that, but it was much more focused event.
Yeah.
We mailed them to all the business owners of the business in the park. That was it,
yeah.
right?
The only problem with that, and again, hey, that's nice, it really is, but let's suppose we send it to somebody who's not there, or somebody who doesn't make the decision, those people can now forward that email to somebody.
Right.
And so to me, email standpoint, and it also gives us the ability to do frequency, so we could do one,
Yeah.
6
You're not
weeks.
spending money.
Yeah, right, well, 6, 8, 4, and boom, here it is. That would be,
I'm
look
just
around the
being
head
devil's
again.
advocate. I'm just being a pain in your butt.
You're the
That's
best.
fast.
Okay, so we're going to stay with a virtual.
To get these suggestions for the prospects in the region, people just gonna take a look at their Rolodexes and
Email.
send
Yeah.
suggestions to me?
Now, is that something we can, as part of our commission, can you send out an email to all of us and say, hey, remember, do this, this, this before the next meeting? And I would just simply say, if you got some, one's better than none. Obviously, if you got 20, that's even better. Okay. So our awards decision, I would suggest at the moment, well, I'm only suggesting, mine is still to make it as we did last time with Multis. I owe everybody what those awards were, but I think you had them in your note, John. What were they? Do you recall?
There were several different ones in the spreadsheet,
Yeah.
but yeah. I
There was
can't-
large
right off the
business,
top-
small business, innovation, and I believe there was one other, which may have been even the mayor's choice. Various different categories, and we had
access-
4.
We have access to all the data to be able to award those already.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can take a look at the different tabs in the spreadsheet. Let's see here.
While John's looking it up, just a comment from Alderman Holper. He believes it's important that the criteria for the award is announced at the time of the award.
Yeah, I think it's great too, because we kind of brushed and announced it, and
Yeah,
that was the format.
There was some we had, oh my gosh, it has to be.
That was the format.
There was some we had, oh my gosh, it has to be like 12.
Steve, that implies that there was criteria.
Absolutely.
I think
There was.
there's-
We poured over it for countless hours.
At least 2 years ago we did.
Yeah, we did 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might
And then we divided it up, and
And we-
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might
And then we divided it up, and
And we
people went
went-
out and
we went
talked to them,
door to
came back.
door,
Yeah,
yeah.
we came back, and they came back and, explained each, and then we voted.
From what I'm seeing now, you had a large business,
Yep.
small business, and then you had excellence
Yeah,
in large business, which probably is the same thing, and then excellence
yeah,
in large business, which probably is the same thing, and then
Yeah.
excellence in leadership.
right. So leadership was an individual, and I thought there was also innovation. Large, small, innovation, and an individual leader.
Okay.
In a way, as I recall, they got rather long, and people kind of drifted off at the 4th and 5th award. It wasn't. I think 3 awards or something, limiting it to some key criteria, but it seemed to drag on a lot, and it seemed to lose some interest in the meeting last time as to who was getting what and when. So I'm saying your list is good, but let's pick out something that would just limit it to like 3 at the most and have it be really impacted rather than,
Well, I think we did. We only had 3 per category.
no, I'm talking 3 categories.
And I'm saying that's only one more announcement.
Wow.
We didn't lose anybody, Mike. I would
You were
suggest
saying
that,
that you were
that's it. Yeah, but we only gave 4 awards.
5.
I thought you mentioned 12.
No, there were
There
4.
were nominations.
Yeah.
The number of people that were nominated,
Oh,
I
got
think
it.
is what I was looking at.
But it ultimately got down to 3. 1, 2, 3 for each of them. So it's a total of 12.
Oh,
And let's also keep in mind, one of the valuable field,
Right.
important, and that's part of the mission too. So if we can mention 15 people as opposed to 5, 15 people come away, say, hey, I had a great event.
Could a category be contributing alderman?
Absolutely, we'll make that,
Are you talking about money?
Down, I mean,
The good thing about you having some flexibility here is you can change or look at the format like you're doing. And some years when you have a large project that comes through,
absolutely.
then you're able to, highlight that project and.
And that was kind of
Make
the
it-
idea
make
with
investment.
innovation, which gave you flexibility, something new. Could certainly fit within that category. Crohn's with them putting a new, center in there. That was along the line of, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's-
So
that's pretty-
that was if you're going to invest in the community, do something of recognition, that was the purpose of that
Right.
award.
And then there's some years, some of the companies here doing some smaller projects.
Yeah.
And take a look at those.
And that would be, okay, so we didn't need to know what's happening in the community, which I think we do enough to say, okay, this is kind of special. So I'll write up something for our next one, and we can vote on it and say, okay, yes or no, we should change this and go from there.
I just don't want, that's what I don't, having to come up with, and then eventually they fall off or get eliminated, but, I mean, key categories, key people, a limited number that impact Franklin and economic development, I think would be
I think
another
we-
way of looking at it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should.
Another way of looking at it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should be comfortable with not giving an award if no one really deserves it. Again, I'll lean on my experience with the chamber. There were a few years, not every year, we gave a Member of the Year award, but it was not every year. We gave a Member of the Year award, but it was not every year. It was special. So we didn't feel as if we had to do that every year. And I think that the other thing that I would suggest is that we not make a big deal of every one of the nominees. Is that we not make a big deal of every one of the nominees. They kind of choose your finalists, maybe the 3 finalists, and recognize them, but not every one of the nominees. Again, from my experience, I had persons or companies that but they kept nominating themselves because they wanted that recognition of being nominated, while they nominated themselves. So anyway, I think we have to make sure that we kind of control this a bit. I know last year we had, like the nominees for an award, there'd be 6 or 7 people standing up there.
No, we did 3. And so to your point, we agree. And so that way, there might have been 12, but we broke it down to the final 3 in our group here.
Right.
And only 3 got, mentioned and 1 won. So, yeah, we kind of already sifted through that. And again, if you say 3 times 4, that's 12 companies that are recognized. We also had a limit if you, 3 or 5, which
Right.
meant there was always a new pool coming in. But still, somebody has to nominate. And then if we, and really, if we're going to do this right, using this as both a recruiting and a retaining, somebody should go talk to every one of these. And so if we're going to do 12, we only got 12 weeks. And so if we're going to do 12, we only got 12 weeks or something like that to do. So we need to get our ducks in a row here. Not only are we going to do it, and which ones. So I guess that would be the next. Assuming we're going to do something like that, we should come in loaded with who we would be recommending. And then we need to open it up to the general public and say who wants to nominate. And then we need to open it up to the general public and say who wants to nominate. And then it might be your case, Barb, with somebody they might not nominate themselves, but we might also, no, they don't qualify. or we as a group say, nah, not exactly. Okay, because of the criteria and that kind of stuff. And we did have criteria as part of our nominations last stuff. And we did have criteria as part of our nominations last time. They had to have certain things, and I'll dig up what we had as kind of a criteria for them to at least be in the contention. So I do have those records that I'll dig and send. I'll send to you, John. I guess send it out to the rest of the thing. And by the way, I find it's always easier to edit than to have to create. So, no, boom, fix it. No harm, no foul. However we want to do that. If you say, for instance, hey, these aren't the right four, whatever, what do you think would be of interest? And I'll also come back and say, hey, they don't have to be the same for the Leader of Excellence this year. I do know, though, that those who won it were very proud of having that honor and distinction as an individual. So, okay.
Then a reminder, you can't circulate your emails.
Now we got to send them through.
It's always a one-way communication.
Right.
Oh.
Gotcha. Okay.
If they were to have a committee to work on this, two or
Well,
three
the
of them?
number of people on this commission, they gotta post it.
Okay, all right, that's what I was asking, okay.
What the heck?
Okay.
Open meetings laws.
All right. So we got our awards next session. Format decision, John. What specifically were we looking for? Was that with a sit down or?
Doing this as a sit-down dinner or hors d'oeuvres like in the past, or, I know you commented on, the format and how formal we want to make it.
Well, on this, committee, 4 of us were at it, and we were at the last.
I wasn't.
Oh, that's right, you weren't. Okay. Well, you were at the one before.
No, and you guys said bad things about me, so that's why I wasn't there. I was at the one.
I thought you were there for a while and then Kelly.
Yeah, with Foxconn.
Yeah,
But both of those were hors d'oeuvres.
heavy orders.
Yeah.
The price of food going up
Yeah.
and the catering charges, I think that is, we need some ballparks to make it, because I know I've got a couple events coming up, unrelated, but the price of food is just, and then we're cutting back on the qualities and,
Yeah.
every meeting I'm going to, we're serving pancakes,
Pancakes for dinner. I think breakfast for dinner, evening is a good thing. When I go and talk,
Is there a limit as to what was it last year, do you remember?
how much or what was it?
Who did it, or was it, do you remember?
How much or what was it?
Who did it, or was it all, it was paid for by?
Well, no, it was over at the country club, but I mean, ultimately the city paid for it.
We paid for it $5,000
Oh,
or something.
I thought we had some donations from somebody that helped that.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'll check and email it to
We
you.
did have somebody that helped that.
Maybe, I don't know.
I'll check and email it to
We
you.
did have some donations from,
Okay, so I will ask them for the same package as we had last time, and I'll come back and get you the cost.
But
Okay.
being in a group of salespeople, the advantage of heavy hors d'oeuvres is you walk around and munch on it while you're talking to me, rather
Yep.
than sitting while you're talking to me, rather
Yep.
than sitting down at a table with all your buddies. You're not mingling.
everybody liked the hors d'oeuvres.
I thought they did too. I thought it worked, and
they
it
were
was, and they had
The
enough.
only problem is a cocktail and the hors d'oeuvres now
Yeah.
we do.
Right,
So there needs to be a good number of
right.
tight tables.
Well, the nice thing by going back to, Tuckaway is, they know what we did. Okay, here's what we did. Soon,
Food quality is good, it's a nice room.
yeah, they did a nice
Yeah,
job.
it's an excellent facility. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Can they do it for us reasonably? And
Was it
For a lot of reasons, so-
Yeah, yep, I figured.
So do you-
Liability and
yeah.
budget.
Hey, he gives me his tickets, you, boom, before you know it, I'm crushed. Yeah. Yeah, cash bar, yeah, that's right, okay, yeah, very thirsty. Okay, so yes, cash bar, so basically I'll approach them, same program as we had last time, availability, and then second,
Are you putting it on your quarterlies or what?
am I doing what?
Using it to meet your quarterly?
Yeah, right, I don't belong, I do public golf courses, and I'm not good at that either, so. Okay, so, that I think we've now covered, the format works, we got that. That I think we've now covered, the format works, we got that at least agreed to. Okay, Any other discussion on the appreciation dinner for the sake of the group? No? Gotcha. Now, I will throw one other thought, though. Okay, so let's suppose, gotcha. Now, I will throw one other thought, though. Okay, so let's suppose they're booked. At one time, there was discussion at having it at different major companies within the Franklin community.
We've done that, it worked pretty well. You just gotta get a company that's got a big, pretty well. You just gotta get a company that's got a big enough area where
Yeah.
you don't have somebody in a couple people in the back room and a few,
No, understood.
and those kind of companies are getting few and far between,
Yeah.
because they're using all their space now to do what they gotta do.
You know, I haven't been at the Crohn's new, that's our training.
That
Building,
might be
isn't
an
it?
opportunity.
I
I'm
would
trying to
think so.
remember the layout. Because they did have a big open area,
Thought so.
I think, that they use as a classroom, so that.
Was that electric company that just cut the ribbon last week? Be all filled up by then?
Oh, S&C?
Yep. Half filled up, and there'd still be enough room.
We could do it in the middle of a 52,000 square foot
Warehouse.
facility. No, they would not be full. Under, good idea. S&C Electric. If it gets to that.
Right.
We really
It probably won't happen. All we have to do is the issue that we've got to deal with there.
Do we have flexibility though?
We haven't, put a stake in the ground exactly yet. No.
Well, if
Well,
we
then-
book that day, is there,
Yeah,
what would be?
why don't we work it around?
Well, okay, so to that standpoint, by Monday, I'll know whether we can do the deal.
Okay,
And you're right, because we can't really call a Fagan or
Right.
Tracy and say, hey, are you available? What day? We're not sure yet. That's kind of weak.
I'm going to be out of town on that.
Yeah, I know. I won't. Yeah, okay. So, John, I'll get you their response. Okay?
Thanks.
Monthly update. I went to, well, I actually didn't make an event this month.
John and I were there.
Yeah.
It was pretty, it was
It was a networking event
at the park,
at,
Window Park.
the
Wasn't it?
dentist,
Yeah, at
dental center.
the dental center on 27th Street,
Okay.
over,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's just over by
Yep.
where
By
Walmart,
Right.
Sam's Club. Market.
Yep,
And that was well attended.
How many people would you say? 40?
yeah, third,
Yeah,
People would you say? 40?
yeah, third,
yeah, I would say 40.
40, 45,
It's coming back.
yeah.
Because at one time we got pretty lean. At one time our finances got pretty lean as well. So when I got off the board position, our finances were in good shape. When I got off the board position, our finances were in good shape. So, good.
There were about 20 people at the after-hours event they had over at
At Window Park.
the ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over at Franklin
And
Field.
then they have their annual golf outing coming up here shortly. I think that's September, October. Annual golf outing coming up here shortly. I think that's September, October. Yeah. Okay, so they got enough stuff happening.
Yeah,
Okay.
Just talking amongst ourselves, the meeting I went to, there was some strife issues going on internally there. Is that kind of
When was that?
the one at Tuckaway? Or no, the one at the Polar Center?
Oh, yeah.
There was-
No,
there was-
it's.
There were issues with
Yeah.
leadership and who's who and who's what, and
No, that's settled.
that's kind of like
Yeah.
in the past now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chamber. Water diversion application to the Wisconsin DNR. And John, you're taking Glenn's spot here this
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah, the proposal that Glenn's putting forward is to get your support, so that the Director of Public Works make an application to the Department of Natural Resources, Wisconsin DNR, to get approval for what we call water diversion. And what the situation is in the very southwest corner of town, the divide between the Great Lakes drainage basin and the Mississippi River drainage basin exists. And of course, Wisconsin's part of the Great Lakes Compact, and so you can't divert water, whether it's because you're utilizing it, and then you can't divert water, whether it's because you're utilizing it and then putting it into a sewer system and sending it to the other basin and just diverting it outright. You can't do either one without specific permission. And so Glenn would like to make that application. It's a process, really. Make that application. It's a process, really. It's not, really a high, degree of difficulty, low degree of success. It's pretty much just a process, and you get approved if you go through it. And Glenn anticipates that the process will take $30,000, or well, less than $30,000, and you have to do a study, and you have to make all the applications and do the consultations with DNR to get the process done. His point is that because we don't have the ability of this regulation, the businesses that want to locate to the very southwest, and you can see it on the maps there, those businesses that want to locate there, and it does include part of the TID 6 amendment, they have to go with well water and septic. And so he's suggesting that we can get higher quality companies that have a better equalized assessed valuation that will want to locate there and make that investment there.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, sometimes the developer pays for that. Is that true?
There was one developer looking at one point, and they decided not to, but I mean, it's all a timing thing. It takes about 9 months, I think, to get through the process. So it's real difficult, except in exceptional cases where there's really huge projects that have decided this is where we want to be around.
Gotcha.
This is a proactive opportunity.
I'd like to make a motion that that the Economic Development Commission ask Glenn to move forward with the application and the necessary steps to prepare materials for the application.
Well, I don't think a bit more so we have a better understanding.
Well-
I, by the way, happen to think it is proactive and the right thing to do, but I do think it's worth, at least for the sake of the commission, to say, well, are there other options and why aren't we doing them? I am familiar with the fact that sometimes developers do that, but it'll take time. And that's the downside to it.
That's
So,
what we could ask.
or they might not. I think it makes it a much more attractive opportunity. Hey, we got this covered. At least it's not an impediment to doing business with this. So,
It's risk aversion.
well, it's proactive. I mean, so as opposed to having one more thing I don't want to come here for, it's
Right, for
it's
the
a positive.
developer.
Yeah,
I sit in the middle chair, so I think differently.
positive. Yeah,
I sit in the middle chair, so I think differently than most. If you turn to the back map, the last map in that packet,
okay.
there's,
404.
it's hard to see, but there's a line on there that shows you the difference. A line on there that shows you the difference. What's in what basin? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you, this is the way the map's oriented, the way we do it. Right?
Yep.
You see right here, this parcel here. You see right here, this parcel here.
Are you on 404 or which one are you on?
404.
Okay,
The parcel that's here, the light colored one,
yeah.
that's Copart. So that's developed. So there's no diversion happening, developed. So there's no diversion happening on the bottom part. The parcel to the west of that has got a lot of natural resources on it. So chances for that to develop are pretty slim.
Mhm.
Or what would develop slim,
Mhm.
or what would develop would be a small area. I think you guys can hear where I'm coming to. So then it goes down and it hits 124th Street, and then it bucks back up into that last parcel between on Oakwood Road. Last parcel between on Oakwood Road.
Is
And
that
you
two
can see
parcels
how
there, or is
it
that
kind
one?
of bisects the parcel.
Is that two parcels there, or is that one?
Well, there's two parcels there, the one in the
And
corner.
they're both split, yeah.
And then it kind of bisects. What we don't have, the information, you look at the available acreage that would be developed because of it. This is in the Mississippi River, or the Great Lakes Basin, this is in the Mississippi. How much of this would develop and cause this to be developed? Kind of what I look for you guys to ask the question so that somebody does the work and figures it out. Because my guess is there's no return on the investment. Because it's $30,000 for the study. Then you got to do a whole bunch of lobbying.
So you're saying the study is 30,000, that doesn't cover the cost to actually do it?
Well, that's the advantage of this site, is there is essentially no cost to it because we have sewer and water right there. So it can go both ways right there. So it can go both ways relatively inexpensively. So the diversion doesn't cost the money, it's getting the approval that costs the money.
It's the $30,000 to get the approval.
No.
It's,
$30,000 for the study.
to make the application.
right, oh, okay, yeah,
It's
$30,000 for the
$30,000
study.
to make the application.
right, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So
So what is the process after, say, the application goes through?
you remember the Waukesha experience with all of the governors and all the rest of that? It's all of that.
Yeah, all the Great,
It's all of that.
yeah, all the Great Lakes governors as part of the compact have to sign off on any diversions.
Including the Canadian
Yeah.
provinces that
Yeah.
also border on any of the Great Lakes. So for Waukesha to have gotten that approval was amazing.
And they spent hundreds.
Yeah, that
So
took a lot of years.
I'm okay with being proactive, but let's be good business people. That's all I'm
It's
saying.
worth it.
Relative to my motion, then, without Glenn being here to find out more about why he'd like us to do why he'd like us to do this application, does anybody have any insights into that as to why?
Oh, by the way, and I don't want to shortchange anybody, if you look, the basin goes up 112, what is this? This is Oakwood Road, a little bit. So there's actually two parcels here. So it's probably, I don't know, maybe 10 acres.
Steve, could you tell us exactly where the dividing line is between the Great Lakes?
Line right here,
It's the river.
you can see,
Is it the dash line or is it the?
no, it's a
This
solid
is
line
it.
right here.
Oh, okay.
This line right,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh,
see,
my.
it comes
such
from there.
configuration there. Okay, thank you.
And then it cuts
Thank
back
you.
over here.
Yeah.
But this land's already developed, and yard is,
Okay.
the half of that, and then over to here.
That line's not a river, that's just a line.
But then it swings, it
That's
continues to
the
swing up
contour
to
line
Loomis.
for the continental divide.
Got it.
And the other, I'm sorry,
And we're still talking about Milwaukee County here. This is not Waukesha County.
this is all Milwaukee.
We can't throw the,
Smooth. Yeah.
yeah, let the water go to that.
What Glenn didn't mention in his email is there is potential for mosquito water on these parcels. So then, you're spending all kinds of money to just keep one.
And what kind of a benefit is it for a business or a customer to have city water instead of well water?
That's a fire protection issue. It's a potential potability issue. The fire protection is when you're hooked up to municipal water, you're guaranteed a steady stream of water at a certain pressure, right? So if you are hooked up to a well, you're still required to do sprinkler systems, but now you got to put in a cistern. But now you got to put in a cistern, and it's a whole lot of money on fooling around for fire protection. So that's why it's a help for economic development, but you got to do the cost benefit.
Also, there's potential impacts with the nearby landfills on the groundwater. impacts with the nearby landfills on the groundwater.
Especially in light of the fact that the dumps are there.
Yeah, waste management's out there, okay.
So,
What was the reasoning that Glenn wanted to do all this?
So, a couple of years ago, I made a call on one of our businesses, and they expressed an interest in expanding, and one of the sites they were looking at, they wanted 30 acres, and one of the sites was essentially the Copart site and this site. Huge water user, no water. So, gonna build, we didn't have a 30-acre site with land at a price point that they felt that they wanted to pay. So this was a site of interest. It wasn't the primary site, but it was a site of interest. So that's what started this all.
Yeah.
Somebody
Yeah,
else.
with Summers on here.
If you read in your notes from Glenn, yeah, it's Summers. And he's
So-
just thinking that other companies, you're not going to have as high quality of development until this is addressed one way or another.
So the current status of that prospect, they're looking at two sites in the city. Neither one, well, one of them is a Strauss site and another one is in East Partners.
So-
Hey, lady, shut the heck up. So the prospect's still here. The opportunity for that site is not. So there is currently no interest in that site that is not. So there is currently no interest in that site that's not fair. There is an interest by a company that wants to put another car salvage area there.
Oh, strong. Okay. That said, though,
Yeah.
if we, okay. That said, though,
Yeah.
if we don't do something, it's just going to sit there forever. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to have to, coming back to yours, Sean, something somewhere.
You may want to have Glenn come back and
Yeah.
ask you.
I'll withdraw my motion then until we can get further input from Glenn. I'll withdraw my motion then until we can get further input from Glenn, hopefully at our next meeting. So just table it until the next meeting, I guess would be my motion.
Yeah, I don't think we even have to have a motion, other than the fact that to cancel yours. Is that what we need?
You don't need a motion.
I didn't think so. But, is that what we need?
You don't need a motion.
I didn't think so. But this is developable land. We just have to have it in a form and a fashion where people would want to be there. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean,
And John,
at least we have better questions for him now to think about when he comes.
and John,
At least we have better questions for him now to think about when he comes in and says,
Glenn
hey,
needs better, clearer maps,
Well, these are copies that I made.
but still.
His original probably is better, and I should have probably made
Just looking
color
at
copies.
options, if it's too expensive to do the water diversion, are there businesses that would match a well system that we could provide incentives to help offset the cost of the extra steps that you talked about as far as water for fire needs, fire protection needs?
We would have to enroll some cash to pay for it, which is always possible.
Just not sure if that's a better option than water diversion.
Somebody needs to do the economic development study, just a rough number, back of the napkin kind of thing, to see if it's even worth talking about. And none of us have done that. None of us have done that. We should do that before we start spending $30,000 on something that's going to net us maybe nothing.
but if I understood correctly, that's just the tip of the iceberg, the 30 grand. 30 grand to go through and get
Yeah.
all these
That's
other,
my understanding.
all these groups. Do you have any idea what that number was? 100 grand, 200?
Millions.
So,
Yeah.
is that what we're going to have to do? So 30 gets us to spend a couple million
This,
to then develop?
That's why I'm going the other route. We
Right.
avoid that.
No, I
entire
understand that,
process.
yeah.
I don't want to give you the answer to that because the Waukesha thing is farther away, there's too many
Volume,
variables.
it's a whole different kind of
Yeah,
volume.
it's a whole different,
Plus 300,000, that's real money.
yeah.
Real money.
I mean, you got to have some real good volume to offset that.
And, yeah.
So my understanding is there's no urgency at this point. Okay.
But unless something's done, nothing will ever happen there, and it'll remain empty.
Nothing
Okay.
At least needs to be some analysis to know if the 30,000 is even worth going after versus other options.
Yeah. Okay. So it's tabled for now. We're going to have Glenn come back and explain to us. And was he passionate about doing that study or not? Or okay, so he wants to. We like that. All right. We got our water diversion, economic development update, approved the CGI agreement for free Franklin video tour production posted on the City of Franklin homepage. We need a proposal. We need a proposal.
Yeah, basically, this is the same kind of situation that we had with Business View magazine, where these, actually, it's a little nicer that these folks will go out and, research the advertisers they want to target, and they'll go out and, research the advertisers they want to target, and they'll go out and solicit them, and we're not putting together a letter. And so they just handle that part of it. We just have to work with them to get the production on the website like we have now. It's right at the bottom of the front page of City Franklin on the website like we have now. It's right at the bottom of the front page of City Franklin's website.
If we were good at this, we would have showed it to you, but.
So it is there right now.
Yeah.
Yep, you just need to scroll down. It's got to scroll down to the bottom.
Okay.
Not quite to the bottom.
Dude sitting behind his desk.
Oh, really? Okay. So then why do we need this? Not a CGI.
For that edition, we did it, but we need to do it again to have another edition
Got
done,
it.
the update.
Okay.
It was done, I want to say in 2015 or 16,
And there's no cost to it.
and I've lost and gained weight since.
What's the motivation that somebody's doing it for free?
I
They
can-
sell,
I
they
can
sell
mention
space,
that.
sell advertising on it.
Amber, and they did it for Oak Creek. And they did a very fine job of interviewing people and all that sort of thing. The one thing that they did that was difficult was that they would go and knock on people's doors and say, the chamber says you should do this. And idea. So anyway, you have to just be careful of their marketing approach, that they don't strong arm people and say, oh, the Economic Development Commission said you should do this. So they're pretty hard salesmen when it comes to getting people to advertise. But they do a very good job in their production,
Yeah, take a look.
in their production.
Yeah, take a look. It's right at the bottom.
But we're currently doing it with them. So this is just
This
a
is a
new version.
renewal, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand this is not an ongoing thing. They go out and solicit once. That's it.
Yeah.
So they can only offend you every,
5 years.
so they can only offend you every,
5 years. Whatever we got.
So do they plan to do an update of what's there right now?
Correct.
They do? Okay.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve? Yes? Yeah, who wants to?
Motion to approve it.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passed. Okay. TIF policy development. John, you want to tell us a little bit about this?
I think this is actually the mayor's program, the handouts that you have, he's provided to us.
I have a strong need to have you guys and lady participate in our development. And our ordinance structure is such that our opportunities are limited, but I want to take advantage and have you help me and Peggy and John develop a policy on what our criteria is for offering TIF incentives to businesses and developers coming to the city. I've been working on this on and off. Well, wait a minute, I got expertise on the Economic Development Commission, why not have them take a look at it and see if they can help me do a better job? So what you have in your packet, this is the beginning draft of the document. And what, to pick up on adding the criteria that continues to help protect the citizens and taxpayers of the city. In criteria, in documentation requirements, whatever. So because it can be a really technical document.
This is not the current one. This is
We don't have a policy.
we have,
No, it's
okay, well, then that's, I think, something. that-
whatever to me, because we get TIF requests, and this letter that you have here,
Yeah.
this is my response to M7 for what became Saputo. So M7 calls me and says, Steve, I've got a prospect, they're looking for about 300,000 square foot building to employ perhaps 300, 350 people. Their investment could be upwards of $60 million. They need 30 acres. What's your incentive package? So they get this. The next question is do you, the next question is do you have a TIF district in place to do that? And who's the developer? Well, the developers need this so that they know what kind of money they have available to them, what the incentives are, that have available to them, what the incentives are, that if they are the master developer, what they can offer to Saputo, where this would come from the developer, not me, not us. So.
So right now, what are they doing? I mean, the developer, or we don't have a developer, or we don't have this. So this is all individual.
It's all one-off negotiations.
Okay.
Like our deal with Bear on TID 6 is
Yeah.
different than Zimmerman's TID 5, different than Mandel's TID 7. They're all different. And talked to Zimmerman and Mandel 2 days ago. We're considering renegotiating the TID on both ends, because on both ends there's things that we don't like. So we take all of that and make a document that's protects us as well as fair to developers.
So, but all of those have some documentation, which allows.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
John can get you the TIF agreements and have a vodka and tonic ready
Yeah.
when you read them, because,
But I assume there are certain, key,
right,
and it just depends on what those terms are.
right.
Okay.
And most of it, I've touched on most of it in here, but it would be really good to have your guys take a look. You guys can make it. Please, Barbara, don't take offense. I just say guys.
I understand. I'm a guy.
Please, Barbara, don't take offense. I just say guys.
I understand. I'm a guy. I'm one of the guys.
But what I want us to come to is a document we can hand people who want money from the city that avoids this conflict that we get into, all the time, where I tell them, I'll give you 75% of the new property tax increment on $1.7 million per acre or more, when we expect the development to be like maybe $1.1 million, when we expect the development to be like maybe $1.1 million, right? So I'm giving them a bar way up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
They get this much when they hit the bottom, and they get this much when they get the top. But I get people coming in all the time, John and I both, where they want 100% of the increment, and John and I both, where they want 100% of the increment, and the increment is the difference between the base tax value today and what they generate tax value after they build the building. So that's the increment. They want 100% of that return to them, the increment. They want 100% of that return to them. Well, no, but I don't have a document that says no. The best we're going to do for you is, based on circumstances, is X, Y, Z percent, and that requires you to make X investment by Z percent, and that requires you to make X investment per acre or whatever we come up with.
Does that change over time? I assume it does.
Of course,
And so really, it's a template, and we're going to plug and play numbers over time.
I would guess.
Yeah.
It's open,
John?
well, it's negotiated.
Yeah.
But you should see what the next step is, like I was talking about with the previous issue. What's the development that's going to be spurred on by having this project. So, I mean, there's multiple facets that you need to take a look at as far as what the benefit to the community is, but the whole return on investment, you know, 25% is not the return on investment, but it's the margin you get to work with, which is reasonable.
If you turn to page 3, this is one of those things that I look for opinions on too. Eligible costs. This is what the city would develop, reimburse a developer for, or do ourselves. You know, capital costs, including the actual cost of public works. Well, that sentence needs to be reworked to be more descriptive. But what we really mean is sewer, water, road infrastructure, curb gutter, street lighting, city stuff, right?
Yeah.
Proposed in here is construction cost of new building structures and fixtures. That's in, I plagiarized this from some other community.
Sure.
That's in there so that they can, in essence, offer a cash grant to it, but call it their funding of the building. Demolition, the third one, the third bullet is really for redevelopment.
Yep.
Let's say, I don't want to use a business. Well, let's say there was a less than potential for a redevelopment. That allows you to pay for the demolition of the building out of TIF dollars. So that's an eligible expense. Let's back up. You can only spend money in a TIF on things that are defined in the TIF plan as an eligible expense. Want to do, put up billboards, and it's not in the project plan, you can't do it. So that's why you list them out.
Well, you could do it, just you'd have to pay for it.
Oh, you can do it, but you
Yeah.
can't pay for it out of TIF dollars.
Right.
So these lists needs to be worked on. The one that I tells a developer, no, under no circumstances will we pay for, and you see my chicken scratching at the bottom. Soft costs, that is, attorney's fees, broker commissions, planning services, and engineering. Why would I want to pay for your attorney when I have no, but I'm here to tell you, every developer wants you to pay a soft cost. It's the bottomless pit, right? So I'm anxious for input on this.
Okay.
I think if you read through here, you can see these things. You see my circles around some numbers and stuff, but if you would look through this and offer suggestions, I can get you the electronic version of this. If you guys want to version it, that's great. Or if you just want to make notes, maybe we can talk about it again next month.
Yeah.
Or if you just want to make notes, maybe we can talk about it again next month.
Yeah. If we could also get something that, you know, we've already done.
Yeah, John can get you a couple of the, there's two documents. There's the developer's agreement. That outlines how much, what the relationship is. That outlines how much, what the relationship is between the city and the developer. And then there's a TIF project plan. That defines the geography, tax keys, what you can pay for, what the budget is for the TIF, which is what this is for, or what the budget is for the TIF, which is what this is for. But you really need both documents to get a total picture of the financial cost of the development.
So does the developer's agreement have to be within the TIF? Or it can be anywhere?
No, we have developers agreements for just about every.
Or it can be anywhere?
No, we have developers agreements for just about every deal, just about every development in the city, regardless of TIF plan. It specifies that the developer is going to put up a bond for $100 million $100,000 that'll cover the following infrastructure. $100,000 that'll cover the following infrastructure costs: asphalt, curb, gutter, catch basins, street trees, you know, that kind of stuff. They pay for normally, but we're bonding now so that if they go belly up before they're done, we have the money. If they're done, we have the money to finish.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of the development.
Is there anything that terms of the but-for analysis?
That's addressed in here, I think, Mike.
It is as just a comment, but is there anything that would be,
The but-for is a test that we as the elected officials come up with.
Okay.
Based on recommendation of our consultants. But that should be in here. That's a strong consideration. What that is, for those of you who don't know what in tax and criminal financing, by state law, the trick is if the but-for test is passed, and that is, would the development occur but for TIF district? So the TIF district has to be the tipping point for the development.
And if not, then that's not in here.
well, it is a comment
I
on
don't think so.
page 3 or page 2. Top of page 2. It mentioned.
Oh, there is the but for.
The other thing, on page 4, the two payment options, upfront financing, where the city takes out the loans, or the community development authority takes out the loans, pays the bills, and starts incurring interest and debt service, and the developer hasn't put a dime into the property yet. That's not a smart way to do it. That's why we do this pay-go financing. That means that the developer does all the work, and gets the buildings up, and we're earning increment before we write a check. That's the way. So I'd take out the upfront financing, because as far as I'm concerned, it's not an option for the city, frankly. And we did that, there are time limits, because we had to put the infrastructure in before anything happened. And so,
Okay, so it's we don't want to do it, but in certain circumstances,
Yeah.
we will.
yeah.
And what percentage is, you got to do it, 80%? I mean, it's one thing to put these in there, but if, you know,
That's where this policy and smart business people come into play. That's where you start your negotiating and you start doing your real strong financial analysis. You gotta know where your return is.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of this rolling the dice, right? But
yeah. From a standpoint, they need to know the game as well, right?
all these guys know the game.
Yep. Got it.
But we do get experienced developers who are inexperienced in TIF based on their market.
Okay.
Typically in the multifamily housing market, they don't do it. And more of them are saying, yeah, I want all my taxes back. Yeah, no. How do I pay for the ambulance that's always at your place?
So the question is, do we want to get involved in this? I recommend yes. But I look around the table here, and I mean, it means you got to read some stuff, guys. It's input.
And frankly, this is not really a hidden effort here to get you guys more involved in the development process here in the city, so that you're doing more than just meeting on a Thursday night at the end of the month.
Well, there's another set of eyes looking at the whole process that the council will eventually have to deal with. That'll be public. So the fact that we're working with it and setting criteria and understanding it and saying, this is our guideline. I mean, this is what we're creating. There's some guidelines for when a TIF would be applied. And I think that's what the mayor's asking at this point.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the mayor's asking at this point.
Yes, and this letter gives you some idea of the terms that we at least propose to, for incentives on TIFs, and that's part of this too. Just more background, more information.
And it would help the council to have that knowledge and understand the fact that you're looking at it and being aware of it.
Okay, so one more time. Do I have a motion? Do we even have to do a motion? We just do this? Okay. Do a motion? We just do this? Okay.
Just record the minutes. We want to start looking at this.
Yeah, okay.
And some of you may have more experience than I, but what I think of when I see this is immediately think of John and his experience and what the other cities do. So do we have any benchmarking to see how this? The other thing I think of is in context of what we want to do, can we compare it to a project we've already done so we have a full understanding of from end to end, from the time before shovel goes to the ground to the time the building's done? What did that look like? What costs were incurred? What hits the city? What hits them? Like a deep dive into an actual example for context.
In the meantime, you can go on the website, look at any of the TIF reports, project plan, and then any of the financial reports that come after that. They all should be online. What you are missing is a developer's agreement, the incentives we would pay, reimbursement rates, and what we're paying. Brian John can get you. You and I can talk Tuesday when you get back and figure out.
I think we have another couple sets of assets in the city in terms of our finance person and Peggy to be able to guide through their experience with this.
When it gets time, we'll have Peggy come across the hall. She's working right now.
Okay.
And talk about it, give you more information, because
Because there have been some
there's
that,
nobody knows it like Peggy.
there's been some that have been iffy, there's some that have been total successes. There's some that are still been iffy, there's some that have been total successes. There's some that are still, we should know a little bit about that when we're looking at setting up guidelines for it.
We did, our business park had a base value when it was first developed on 51st and Ryan. It was first developed on 51st and Ryan. The base value, which would be the value of the land before we turned any dirt, right, was $16 million, as I recall. Could be wrong. After roads, sewer, water, lighting were put in, no, it's a lot less than that, because the total infrastructure cost was something like $33 million. But the TID base was a lot, 16 million, 2000. The cost to develop was 33. And today, that business park is assessed at about $160 million. So the difference between the difference between 16 and 160 is the increment. Supposedly, TIF district in the state today. I heard that from like when we had MLG. Who knows if that's true or not, right? But it's pretty good. It's a pretty good bump. Most TIF districts are 3 to 1, 4 to 1 base value to increment.
Million in it. And based on the 30 million, we went from 16 to 60, 160.
Right. So there's actually two calculations,
Yeah.
as you point out. There's the success of the TID in terms of increment, because that increment is what pays the 30 million, 35 million.
That-
The taxes on that 100, the difference between the 16 and the 160, the taxes on that pay the 33 million. That's how that works.
Yeah.
And the goal this is more information that you need to read that document. The goal is always, a TIF district is usually 20 years or 23 years. The goal is always, for us, is to pay that debt off as quick as humanly possible. So when somebody says, oh, it'll be a 27-year TIF, as a politician and a mayor, I'm saying, hell no. We're going to pay this off, and we're not going to do it 16 years. No. Just pull a number out. And just, because that's the only way that it makes sense for no, that's not fair. That's the way it provides the biggest advantage to the community. For example, NM's, the TID 3, which the NM building's in, we closed that last year, 4 years ahead of schedule, and we added to the expenditure time. So we had more to pay off, expenditure time. So we had more to pay off, so it delayed the pay. We had more debt to pay off payoff of the TID by 4 years, I think. So we could have paid it off in 12 years.
Are there any decisions based on
12 years.
Are there any decisions based on quality of life enhancements? So it maybe isn't going to pay out real well, but you know what? We really should have something like that in our community.
That probably should be in there.
Okay.
Job creation, which is
Yeah, that
number
was-
of
yeah.
jobs, job quality. Job creation, which is
Yeah, that
number of
was- yeah.
jobs, job quality.
Yeah.
Risk to
Part-
taxpayers?
Well, and environmental remediation is one of the reduction of blight overall is the general term. So that could be cleaning up an environmental Superfund. That could be cleaning up an environmental Superfund site, which is within your capabilities to do with a TID, and getting rid of the building that's on it, and then putting another functional business there.
Like Drexel Square.
Okay, say for instance, we had no
What's that, Drexel Square?
grocery stores.
Sure.
Drexel's a
Brownfield.
blighted TIF. That's right.
What's that, Drexel Square?
No grocery stores.
Sure.
Drexel's a
Brownfield.
blighted TIF. That's right. That, what the blight designation gives you is an extra 4 years in TIF life
Okay.
to pay off the debt.
Mhm.
That's all it does.
Yeah.
But the NM one, we were gonna declare it blighted. If it's a blighted TIF, it's legally under the auspices of the Community Development Authority, which then becomes the bonding agency, so it doesn't hit the city's bonding rate, and the planning authority for it. So that, site plans and all of the stuff that usually gets across the common council or planning commission or environmental commission. So that's the advantage, that's the other advantage of a blighted TIF.
Okay. All right.
Wow, I didn't intend on doing a TIF class tonight.
No, it's good. Thank you. Any other questions on TIF?
Where does the 70-30 analysis come into play this, at all with this?
We're doing history again, and that's good. Thank you, Mike. The 70-30 that's on the wall there, that came from this body in 2000, after a long study for the Tickner report and Franklin First, we needed to set a goal for what we felt was a balance in the tax burden between residential taxpayers, residential taxpayers, and non-residential taxpayers. At the time, it was 16% non-residential, and the rest was all being borne by the residents. And we felt that our mission was to move that needle. That's where we decided on 70-30. That's where that goal came from. So when you look, if and when you look at the city budget or the comprehensive annual financial report, it says residential, it says multifamily, industrial, commercial, agricultural, and it lists out the total assessed values by each one of those. We agreed at the time we did this that if someone did not live in it or farm it, it was non-residential. That was because the assessment rolls by the state law says that apartment buildings, by their nature, are commercial. So that kind of skewed it. Because we're looking at this as people that needed activities who lived here, needed services. So, is that more than you wanted to know, Mike?
It just comes up in discussions. So
And are we at the 70-30 now?
No, and it's a goal that,
it's afloat.
yeah, because your reassessment notices. So we're going to have an assessment class too. Residential this year went up on an average of 10.6%. Commercial, non-residential went up 8.2%, I think was the number. But you notice the difference, which is that the residential taxpayers are paying more of the burden than the commercial. If they both went up 10%, it stays the same. So that's why that number kind of goes up and down and moves around a little bit. Depends on who's getting hit each
So,
year.
so why did we, just something like that, right?
It's always close. It's because we're playing with percentages, right? The percentage of properties that are non-residential in this city are a fraction of what our residential properties are. So as a percentage,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that can,
But the percentage that our taxes went up higher than the commercial was also part of that.
right. So it's 4% on the gross, and then you've got the differential on the differential on the it's 4% on the differential, and then you've got the gross difference.
Yeah.
So it's more math than this little broadcast student could ever come up with.
Gotcha. Okay,
But through our efforts here over time,
gotcha. Okay.
but through our efforts here over time, is there the possibility of lowering residential taxes as we increase the commercial revenue base?
The answer to that, well, to use the word lowering,
Yeah, no.
and in a growing community is darn near, and I'm on the record, I know it, but I've said this all the time anyway. Lowering property taxes is a very difficult thing to do in a growing community. It's even harder in a community that's not growing, because you still have your fixed costs, police, fire, ambulance. That never goes away. Sure, you can lay off a couple of coppers and firefighters, in Greendale, and you might be able to keep your taxes steady. But that's a whole complicated subject too. Steve, you saw a lot of you saw my state taxes for my house since 2000, and I charted them out. I charted out assessed value, all the increases. I charted out the city's tax rate, city only, and then combined. Charted that all out. Then I charted out the city tax levy, and all works together, right? It's all kind of really weird. And then I charted out my net tax bill. And none of them look the same, but my net tax bill is about like that. So lowering is very hard to do. Especially in a growing community after all of that.
But our percentage could go down, so we could get closer to the 70-30 as opposed to where we are perhaps
We've been
78-22.
We've been to
78-22.
we've been to 66, 24,
Really?
26.
Yeah.
But then the next year, residential properties got reassessed. And the next year, residential properties got reassessed at higher than commercials, so that the difference separated again. So it's a good goal. It's a target.
Okay.
It's a moving target, but it's a target.
All right.
And that came from economic development.
All right.
And that came from economic development. And a conversation on a Saturday morning with coffee and donuts and a lot of yelling and screaming, we come to that. It's philosophical as well as kind of geeky.
Where did you have the donuts? Where did you have the donuts? Where did you have the donuts? Where did you have the donuts?
We did it in the hearing room.
Oh.
I think I bought them at the time Century.
I'm not adverse to donuts.
Gotcha, yeah. All right, anything else on TIFs? Okay. Else on TIFs? Okay. Current prospects.
If there's anything you want to go over, I think we've got a plastics project out there looking at us, biomed, food processing, which actually might be done. That's what we're doing with M7. They keep talking to us about it.
Food processing.
International, foreign direct investment.
You gotta talk to me.
Well, I'm doing this annotatedly, so
I understand.
it's working. So,
And again, John and I apologize that we have to be nebulous about this, but they always,
we got a couple of spec buildings and a warehouse project out there, but that's just industrial-oriented type stuff. That's not the housing and retail and all the other projects that I'm only casually involved with at best.
we'll let you know that there's going to be a concept review development of the Old Orchard Shopping Center. And then some.
Orchard View.
I'm sorry, Orchard View. I got a brief, John and I got a briefing on it, Mike's about to get one. Pretty exciting stuff.
And when will that be?
When is Orchard View? Is that 76 and
76 in Rawson,
Yeah.
on the east side of the street. But there's also activity at
South and east, yeah.
what we call
Southeast
the,
The Ace Hardware,
Yep,
the bank.
that'd be great.
what we call the horseshoe property. So if you're coming north on Loomis Road, that empty land there, discussions about that. Now, that's gonna require a TIF district. I don't wanna get into a lot of what the issues are. We'll do that once it gets public. But there's gonna be a lot of road work there. That's something that the city would probably pay for. Conversation in the community. John hinted around, but we've been talking for over a year now on Saputo cheese. You're aware of that. That's 330,000 square feet. The building currently is estimated at $60 million, and is estimated at $60 million and 650 employees on the corner of Oakwood and 27th Street. Directly behind that is a 175,000 square foot spec flex industrial building by HSA Commercial out of Chicago. That's under construction right now. A commercial out of Chicago. That's under construction right now. Saputo hasn't turned dirt yet, but it's only because the way they do business, they want all approvals, all drawings finished and stamped before they turn the first spade, as opposed to everybody else in the world that says, heck with that, give me the footings to everybody else in the world that says, heck with that, give me the footings and foundations permit, I'll figure out what goes on top of it later.
I already turned dirt.
Well, yeah, we need to. So there's the 175 by HSA. I don't know anything about their lease up. And then if you're on Oakwood Street, it's being put in north to south from Oakwood to Elm. That's being built right now. We ought to take pride in the fact that we're doing something different for stormwater management. When a community builds a road, we have to account for the stormwater that builds up because of that road. Scoop out a basin and throw your water into the hole. Well, we don't want to do that because, well, what are we all about? Assessed value per acre, right? So I don't want to take a developable piece of land and make it a stormwater basin. I want to put a building on it and charge taxes for it, right? So what we're doing on this project is we're putting stormwater underneath the road and in the ditch in bioswales and managing it that way. So it's less expensive for the city, and it's also a newer technique that not a lot of roads are doing. So we're saving some money that way. So Hickory's going in.
But not only are we saving money, but we're also saving land.
Exactly correct. For developable acreage. And then right next to that on Hickory is 236,000 square foot flex building being built by Wangard Partners out of here in Milwaukee. And Wangard Partners out of here in Milwaukee. And I met with the potential tenant yesterday, and I just want to highlight how these things go. No business cards. I handed mine out, but they didn't give me any back. Because they'll never tell you who they are and who they work for. Give me any back. Because they'll never tell you who they are and who they work for. Because obviously, those of us who are in business, you don't want your competition to know, and you don't want to have an impact on your employees and your vendors until you're ready to do that. Then we're ready to do that. But they were talking 200 of that 235,000 square feet for what I gleaned to be a $30 million that building is worth right now would probably balloon to 100. The assessed value is tax money, which means that we pay TIF dollars down quicker and get out of it, get that money on the tax roll. There's a prospect interested in the Strauss plant property, the new property.
Yeah.
There's more going on, I just can't remember. God.
That's why I try to write it and track it.
You got two old guys here trying to remember all this stuff. So, yeah. So, that's what I do. I'm happy to answer questions to the extent that I will.
Insofar as that whole section on a development, where are we at on that? So Strauss isn't going in, anything else actually?
You know,
And then we also had residential there too, right?
the residential's going gangbusters. And those houses were, the residential's going gangbusters. And those houses were originally slated to be 400 to 600. They're 500 to probably, I bet you there's a couple $1 million homes in there now. But I gotta tell you, just as an editorial comment, the effect of a lawsuit, development such as that, is chilling for the entire development area. There were several convenience store gas stations wanting to locate on the other corner across the street from Strauss to not only help the residents but fuel the trucks. That's not happening. So, at 30 acres before anybody buys that corner, which is a prime gas station corner, right? Because there's no gas stations down there. So that stops. People want to know what's on that corner before they buy the next parcel to the north. It's a cascading effect that is just chilling when somebody lost Strauss at $2 million an acre assessed value. It's just unbelievable.
And is anything happening at the federal level?
Oh, we didn't talk about the lawsuit. The lawsuit is currently still, there's supposed to be a hearing on the motions. Finally, status of the federal lawsuit. There's 2 lawsuits filed against us. And all of them are alleging that we violated residents' rights, the due process, and didn't follow our ordinances, and it's in incompatible use.
So this could be hung up out there for quite some time, or no, not a docket or anything.
I choose not to comment on that. So that's what I know.
But Strauss is still in Franklin at their original site, correct?
Strauss maintains a manufacturing facility here. Their headquarters has been moved to Waukesha,
Okay.
as well as a refrigeration. It's like to rub it in, don't you?
No, I just really didn't know, honestly.
That's easy.
Okay. Any other?
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When we're talking about these TIF policies,
Yes.
the Strauss thing brings up your city leadership likes to protect the city. We have what's called a property assessment guarantee with just about every development that's come in over the last 10 years. What that is it's the owner of the last 10 years. What that is it's the owner of the property guaranteeing the city that a certain assessment will be either met and exceeded or paid for, regardless of the actual assessment of the property. So, we entered into an agreement just with Company Y that said that their property in 2 years would be worth a minimum of, let's just use a fictional amount, $10 million of, let's just use a fictional amount, $10 million. And then in 4 years, be worth $20 million. And then they don't build. In the meantime, we put in streets, sewer, water, good faith dealt with. So that's why we do property assessment value guarantees, and that ought to be in there too. I don't know that I've got it in there.
Should be in there.
I don't know that I've got it in there.
Should be in there.
And that's, by the way, that's not us being meanies, that's common in development.
Taxpayers.
Because the reality is if you come in good faith and want to build, you're going to build and you can put any number you want as long as you're going to build and you can put any number you want as long as it's less than the value of the building's going to be, right? You don't care. But, so,
Okay.
New directions and more fun.
Yeah. Everybody good on the current prospects? Well, I thought that was great. And, I would like it to be kind of a monthly discussion if we can. I'm just saying.
I need another meeting to go to tonight.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I know now more than I
John's
have
going to be
in
in a
past,
position to do these.
Yeah.
There's Peggy as well, and then there's the whole financing piece of that that's always being monitored and watched over, so.
Okay, but that's more background than we've gotten in years, just in general, so, thank you.
That was very helpful.
You've got a group that's
Saying, I think we appreciate it, thank you.
I think we let John decide who he wants to bring in and how and when and why. Any more resources that would help us.
I do like having an educational aspect to this as a standing item.
Well, but I'd also like to know the prospects, because theoretically, that's our mission, as part of economic development.
By the way, my service to the city started sitting in that chair, sitting where you are in 1991. And the economic development guys kept feeding me information and bringing me, along. Then I was sitting in that chair.
I took over that chair in 2016.
So watch out.
All right, gotcha. All right, so we're good on that?
So watch out.
All right, gotcha. All right, so we're good on that? The last item is Thursdays. I think this worked great, but I'm looking for the rest of you guys. Is Thursday okay?
I have one question.
Yes.
Bob hasn't been able to attend, are we?
He's not, he resigned.
Oh.
He said he's not going to do it anymore.
Oh, he officially did that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and that was a mistake that I had about
Okay.
the agenda.
Okay.
So you guys find a clone of yourselves and have them go on application.
Because Tim is here all the time, as much as he can be
Yeah.
here, so that's not, but I was concerned about Bob, that's.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
No. You need to officially change the meeting dates.
You need a motion.
Okay, so I need a motion
For
to change
Thursday of the month.
to Thursday. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So,
Worry about it.
now, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
And do I have a second? Good.